think we are.
Okay. Working on a Tuesday. Always works on a Tuesday.
Hooray.
There we go. Just checking to see if it's come up. We are live.
Ah.
It's working.
Awesome. Well, morning, everybody. Hopefully there's someone out there watching us. If you are, please give us a thumbs up and a wave and say who you are. Really excited this morning. We are welcoming Lynda Wharton to our discussion on a Tuesday, and Lynda is a naturopath and a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist as well. And as there are not many of those around in New Zealand, so it's we're very lucky to have you. Lynda's got about 35 plus years experience, author of 3 books, and I know from being a naturopath myself, is very well respected within the naturopathic field. I've certainly heard lots of wonderful things about you, so it's an absolute joy to have you here. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure too. Thank you so much for the invite. It's lovely to be with you both.
Awesome. Do you want to just maybe let our community know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks for the intro. You're spot on. So I have been around a long time. I'm a bit long in the tooth, and I'm one of the sort of elders in the naturopathic world in New Zealand now. I don't quite know how that happened. It hasn't always been that way. But yeah, I've been practicing for 35 years. And at first I began as a naturopath. Well, actually, before that, I decided I've always been interested in psychology and how people tick, and how our minds influence our health and our bodies. And so originally I wanted to be a psychologist, so I went to Auckland Uni and I did a psych degree. And then in the very last year of my degree, I became really, really unwell with chronic fatigue like symptoms, and I knew absolutely nothing about natural medicine. And so I did the whole medical model, doctors, specialists. They basically couldn't find anything wrong with me, told me it was pretty much all in my head. And in the meantime, I was barely functioning at uni. I was so ill. And then fate, synchronicity, as it happened, a lady that I worked with in my part-time job said to me, "Oh, you should go see your naturopath. I haven't seen a doctor for 20 years. Go see my naturopath." So I had no idea what a naturopath was, but Julie, I trotted off. You may know one of the 4 fathers of naturopathic medicine in New Zealand, David Duggan.
Yeah.
Going way back.
Yeah.
So I went to see David Duggan, and he did, I now realise, some really basic naturopathy with me, put me on a detox, gave me some vitamins and minerals, helped support my thyroid function, got me off the compulsive coffee drinking and the sugar binging. And gradually over the weeks and the months, I became a new woman. So I finished my psych degree, graduated, and then I travelled for a year. And during that year, I really did a bit of a life review, because on planes and trains and buses all over Europe, I kept bumping into people who were osteopaths or naturopaths, or this whole world that I knew nothing about until I personally was sick. So when I came back, I just felt so passionately that this is what I wanted to do. So I trained as a naturopath, and I practiced for probably, I don't know, 2 years or so before I had another health challenge. It was a female health problem. It was incredibly painful periods that would just deck me for 2 days every month. And somebody said to me, "Why don't you try acupuncture?" So I did. I went off to an acupuncturist, and it was incredible. The results were amazing. Once again, I felt like I got my life back. So being the obsessive student that I am, I decided it was time to go back to college. So I carried on practicing as a naturopath, and I studied acupuncture. And then from then until now, I've been in full-time sole clinical practice, combining those 2 modalities. And they work together so beautifully. And I think perhaps one of the points of difference with me as well, going way back, because I've been in practice for so long, when I started out, nobody was niching. Everybody in the holistic world was just a naturopath or an acupuncturist, and whatever walked through the door, you treated. But right from early on, my interest and my passion, I guess because of my own struggle with hormonal health, I was always interested in supporting women's health. And so I niched really, really early. and it's been a wonderful thing for me. I've loved working with women, and way back, it was actually a really powerful way of building my practice. It gave me a point of difference.
Wow. Have you found that the women's health issues have changed over the 35 years at all, or have you kind of seen any patterns?
That's a really good question. Have they changed? I don't think they have changed, in that when I think right back to the beginning, you know, there was always a woman walking through the door with hormonal imbalance, PMS, painful periods, struggles going through menopause. So that's always been happening in my practice. I think perhaps what I have noticed over the years is that I have noticed that over the years I've seen more women who are either diagnosed or, from my perspective, clearly are suffering from endometriosis, PCOS, polycystic ovaries, and definitely infertility. So I definitely see more women or couples struggling with infertility now than I did 35 years ago.
Do you think, is that to do with the age of women now getting to an older age where they decide they want to have children, or do you think that's something going on in our diet and our environment that's making that more of an issue now?
Yeah. So statistically, you would say that it is, you know, that demographic change where women are now leaving it later and later to try for a first baby. And, you know, we know that come 30, there's a decline in fertility, and 35, there's a precipitous decline. And so I do see a lot of couples who have waited till they're 32, 36 to try for a baby, and they do often have the odds stacked against them. If they have got undiagnosed pre-existing health conditions or hormonal imbalances, and those things maybe are only addressed or only become apparent at the time, you know, that they're trying to conceive. So there is that. But I also think that, you know, we're definitely living in a more toxic world. So we've, for many, many years, we've used sprays and herbicides and pesticides and what have you, and we've, you know, processed food. But I think over those decades, that our planet is just more toxified, and women and men and children, we're all exposed to more, you know, estrogenic compounds in our environment. So I think all of that is a part of the picture, but potentially even more than that, what I see is that the modern expectations placed upon a woman, or by society placed on a woman, or the expectation that a woman places on herself, means that I see so many women who are just living chronically in the grip of never-ending stress.
Yeah.
So you know, I've been saying for decades that stress, the being trapped in a chronic fight or flight, and the elevated cortisol and stress hormones that come with that has a really major impact on female fertility and female hormonal health in all ways. And it's only really in the last decade that Western medical science has started saying that. So the naturopaths, the herbalists, we've been saying it for decades, probably even hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But now science is on board with actually proving that that's an issue too. So a lot of the women I see coming for fertility, yes, they may have age stacked against them, but they're women who are trying to be all things to all people. They usually have got demanding jobs, or, you know, they're living here in Auckland, they're commuting. They're often over-exercising as well, because that goes with that, that expectation that they place upon themselves. So I see chronically stressed, fatigued women who are unable to have babies. Yeah.
And do you, like with the women that you've seen, has the ages of the woman changed? So you're seeing more women in their 30s and 40s now, or do you see a lot of younger girls that are also coming in with hormone imbalance again, because kids are getting stressed younger?
Oh, yes. So the fertility end of the spectrum is usually the 30s, but the female hormonal imbalance manifesting as, you know, severe PMS or severe period pain or amenorrhea, lack of periods, younger. Yes. I mean, do you find that too? It's just terrible, the number of young girls, I said teens, who are just crippled with period pain or on a roller coaster of mood swings each month with their hormones. So yes, I would say younger.
And do you think that's largely stress related too?
Stress is definitely a part of it. I think a lot of the young girls I see, there's quite a bit of dietary aberration going on as well, you know, so that there's a lot of, obviously it's generalizing because some young people are really on top of their diet, but generally those young people, those young women are eating a traditional Western diet, you know, with huge amounts of processed foods, high fat foods, a lot of sugar, right? So that's a really big one that causes havoc, causes chronic inflammation, havoc with hormones, and energy drinks, cafe culture, running on coffee, and a lot of younger women that I see have also had, you know, 1, 2, 5, 6 years using hormonal contraception, which is another spanner in the works, really.
Yeah, definitely. So what about, have you seen much of a change? Because the Western countries, I believe that the Western country, like we're the only kind of countries that really suffer from menopause, and other countries around the world that don't seem to suffer like we do. Is that, and you would mainly put that down to our diet and our way of living, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, if we're lucky to live long enough as a woman, we all go through menopause. So it is a universal experience for women if we live, you know, past our early 50s. But it does appear from a lot of the research that Western women tend to have a harder time going through menopause, especially with a lot of the research has been done looking at, you know, measuring things like hot flushes and night sweats, and Western women do seem to have a worse time with that. And it's interesting, I haven't ever been able to fully separate out the various factors that might explain that. So there's obvious things like the fact that the Western diet tends to be very different to a traditional Asian diet, although obviously a lot of Asian diets are becoming more and more westernized now, and so we're starting to see Western women emulate the same kind of hormonal health issues that we see in the West. So like breast cancer incidence, you know, when women in Japan and China, when their diet becomes more westernized, their breast cancer rates rival ours. And so with menopause, how much of the fact that they have an easier time, how much of it is to do with their traditional Asian diet, and how much of it is to do with their mental conditioning and their expectations, or the story that they tell themselves around what menopause is. Because a lot of Asian cultures, the women don't have the fear that we Western women have about aging. And, you know, they're more revered, more respected, the elders. They have a place in the culture. Whereas in the West, menopause is quite terrifying for a lot of women because it spells an end to, in their mind, it spells an end to beauty, to, you know, sexualized youthful culture, and we start to expand and get grey hair and wrinkles. And so the West kind of tells us in the media that it's all over, it's all downhill from here, right? So going into menopause as a Western woman with that kind of mindset, it's almost inevitable that you're going to have quite a lot of body mind stuff going on.
Definitely. It needs to be addressed. It's crazy. And even like the fear of aging, that whenever you see an old person, it's always that they're frail and they're in the nursing home, and yet there are people in there 100-year-olds who are walking around and doing all sorts of things. So age is really, to some extent, what you make it. It's about how you see it and how you think about it, and whether you decide That's it. I'll give up on life as well. Plenty
Yeah,
of 60-year-olds
totally.
who've got more life than some, 50-year-olds.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's face it, we have seen a shift, haven't we, in the last 15 years? We have seen a shift with, grandma putting a backpack on and heading off on a Eurorail trip for 3 months.
Yeah.
Whereas at the same age, at 65, my grandma had her slippers in the fire. She was in front of the fire. She was retired, and it was, baking and staying home. So we definitely have seen a change in the culture, although I still believe that there's a disparity between how we view male aging and how we view female aging.
Yeah.
So, as men age, quite often with increasing age, they might bald or become very grey or become, soft and flabby around the middle. But at the same time, they may be climbing the corporate success ladder and have more power, more money, a bigger car, and they're not, they don't wear that same mantle of aging kind of being the end of the line. Whereas for women, because so much of our self-identity traditionally is wrapped up in child raising, and so by the time a lot of us get to menopause, our children are flying, they're leaving the nest, and so that's the end to our, a big part of our raison d'etre. They've gone at the same time as our body is seemingly betraying us,
Yeah.
So, and then we're losing our superficial version of Western beauty.
Yeah.
From my perspective, an aging woman, maybe I'd say this because I am one. I'm almost 60, but from my perspective, an aging woman, in many ways, I've never felt more beautiful because I'm so much clearer about who I am.
Yes.
And I find it so much easier to say no to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of beauty that I didn't have when I had a perfect figure and I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of reclaiming your identity, and also I think there's an element where an older woman almost becomes invisible, and so it's about saying, right, I'm ready to be visible now. I'm not going to be invisible anymore, and I know who I want to be and who I'm going to be for the next 40 years. So it's almost like it is like a kind of a metamorphosis where you come out of menopause. I always think of menopause as being like the butterfly. You come out and it's your opportunity for the next 40 years to say, this is who I am, this is what I want from my life, and get out of my way, because
absolutely,
it's still such a long part of our life.
Totally, because once upon a time, of course, menopause did occur in the later stages of our life, because we might be menopausal at 50 and dead by 60.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're menopausal at 50, and maybe we've got, another 30 years or 35 years of really, personally useful and enjoyable quality life, hopefully. So, that's one of the things I do when I work with women. They come to me thinking that they're going to get a prescription for, clinical nutrition or herbs, or they're going to have acupuncture needles. And yes, they get all of that. But because of the acupuncture, because I'm seeing a woman weekly over a period of weeks and months, what we do is we engage in introspection together. Yeah. We engage in dialogue and introspection. And I very much see a part of my role working with all women, but especially with midlife women, a part of my role is to reveal their beauty to them. And that sounds a little bit cliched, doesn't it? But by that, I mean, help a woman to grow in terms of her personal empowerment, in terms of stopping and taking stock and recognizing all of the incredible achievements of her life. And that might not be an award, it might not be a high-paying corporate job. Her achievement might be the beautiful children that she's raised into functioning, happy adults. Or it might be the fact that, she lost her mother when she was 5 years old, and then her husband left her when she was 20 years old, and then, blah, 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 on through all the various stages. And here she is, still being a beautiful, whole, strong woman in the world. And so that's an immense, incredible achievement to be acknowledged and to celebrate, right? And that's not the way that we're conditioned. That's, that's a different way of looking at things for a lot of women. So I help women to understand, that menopause is nature's way of calling us back to ourselves. Because of the physical and emotional challenges that often come with menopause and perimenopause, it's a time to do a life review and really see what's working. What's working in terms of our personal self-care practices, what's working in terms of our interpersonal relationships with our children, our parents, and our intimate partners. It's often a time as well where things come to an end. So when children leave home, if your marriage has been effectively barren and dead for the last 15 years, once the kids are gone, it does create that window of potential space to really do that life review. And so I see a lot of women doing that. I work with a lot of women who are leaving jobs that no longer satisfy them, working through a process of leaving marriages that are long dead, and finding out really who they are when they're no longer a caregiver, when they're no longer all about being the perfect wife or the perfect mother that's self-sacrificing, bringing up children. So in so many ways, with the passage through menopause and with the aging process, there is an opportunity to be gifted a whole new way of life.
Wow.
That's awesome. How much do you think that with the work that you do with those women, how much do you think it's about your relationship with them, and how much of it do you think is the acupuncture?
That is such a perceptive question, and only another practitioner would ask that, right? And I absolutely know what the answer to that is, because it's something that I've pondered for many, many years. And I'm certain that a key, potentially even the most powerful part of the process is the relationship that we build with each other, and the space that I hold, the safe, nurturing, all accepting space that I hold for those women to come to every week. And part of the reason that I say that I know that that's so important is that the way I structure my clinic, the way I work, first consultation is for an hour, and the woman will come in and sit in, it's what I call my throne. I've got a big, beautiful, comfortable chair that they sit in. They sit in the throne. I sit opposite them. No table between us. And I've got a small, very intimate treatment room. It's very homely. It's got a beautiful energy in it. And so I hold space for that woman, and I ask key questions. And often I don't get through the whole case taking that first hour, because I might ask a question that is like lighting a piece of kindling in a fire, and they just go off, and their whole story comes out. And so I tend not to shut them down, and so we'll take the rest of the case the following week. But the reason I know how powerful that is because over the years I've had so many women come back the second week. We've done nothing. I've prescribed nothing for them. I haven't touched them with an acupuncture needle. I've just held space and allowed them to share their story. And so many women come back the following week and say, I don't understand it. I was getting a headache every day, and I haven't had a single headache in a whole week. Or I came to you for insomnia, and I've slept every single night this week from us talking. So I know that exchange of energy between us, and just creating that space of feeling wholly accepted and good enough, perfect as you are, is powerful. It changes our heart space, it changes our thoughts and our emotions, and then immediately that changes our biology. And it's the changed biology immediately, that's the healer.
Absolutely. Feeling heard, feeling seen, feeling loved.
It's powerful. I mean, do you find that as well? Do you feel like too?
Yeah. Sometimes I've had clients and I've done absolutely nothing, and then they've said, I feel so much better, and I think, I didn't do anything. And it's that the relationship's really powerful, and I think that's important if like some of the women were listening to this and thinking, oh, I've had acupuncture and it didn't work. It might actually have been the relationship rather than the acupuncture that was the problem. And you need to find someone who you really resonate with, who you really feel listens to you, gets you, sees you, cares about you, for the rest of it all to then fall into place.
Absolutely. And I think sadly that one of the big paradigm differences between the model of, you know, a whole person, a holistic approach versus an allopathic Western medical approach, one of the big issues with the Western approach is that our system doesn't cater for that magic of interpersonal connection and the healing that comes from that alone. And so, you know, our system is 15 minutes, you're in there, often the whole time the GP is barely looking at you, just like typing on the laptop, getting the notes down, and then you know, pushes the script across the table, and that's it. And then it's all down to the pill, the magic bullet to do the healing. And so what's been lost in that exchange is a massive opportunity for our own body to be the supreme healer. And actually that's what it is. If we get out of our own way, if we're facilitated and empowered to make those changes, if we're educated and supported to make those changes, it's our body that heals us. It's not the acupuncturist or the B6 tablet. It's the magic of the synergy in our body that actually puts us back on track.
Yeah. Wow.
Could you tell ladies a little bit about how acupuncture itself, if they have menopausal symptoms, if they've got hot flushes, if they've got irregular cycles, how acupuncture could work for them?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So acupuncture, the type of acupuncture I practice is traditional Chinese acupuncture. There's Korean acupuncture, Japanese acupuncture. There's Western medical acupuncture, which is more script based, you know, like if you have PMS, these are the 10 points we will use. So traditional Chinese acupuncture is the most beautiful system of balance and flow. It is body, mind, and spirit medicine, the ultimate body, mind, spirit medicine. TCM is all about, sorry, I hope you didn't hear that notification pop in. I've got notifications pinging all over the place. It is very much about our relationship, restoring right balance of our relationship with each other, our relationship with our own body, our relationship with the macrocosm, the earth, with nature, with the heavens. So I love that. I love the sort of interconnectivity of body, mind, spirit, and how we are, our wellness is a reflection of the harmony and the balance of the planet. Which is actually very interesting when you're thinking about the days that we're going through right now, right, with you know, this COVID-19 and this viral pandemic. It was inevitable because our planet is out of balance. We're disrespectful towards nature and each other. Anyway, I'll get back to where I was. What happens when a woman comes to me?
That's another really interesting conversation, though.
Yeah, it is another one, isn't it? It's a really interesting one. So with traditional Chinese acupuncture, we don't have scripts for a condition. So if a woman came to me with, say, hot flushes, I don't have the same 6 acupuncture points that I use for every woman with hot flushes, because underlying those hot flushes, if I had 10 women, there may be 10 different energetic imbalances. There may be chi, you know, blockages of chi in different meridians. Chi is the life force energy that we use, that we manipulate or change with acupuncture. There might be, you know, a spleen issue or a liver issue or a heart issue. So every woman, even though they come in saying, oh, I've got hot flushes, actually with thorough case taking, with pulse diagnosis and tongue diagnosis, I'm able to work out what is the underlying driver for those hot flushes for this individual woman. And then using specific chosen acupuncture points, I'm able to influence the energy flow and the balance of energy unique to that woman. And then once that energy is balanced over a period of weeks or months, the hot flushes just magically disappear, even without us having to specifically, you know, prescribe black cohosh or ginseng, or whatever it is, just the body finding its own balance, the symptoms disappear. So we treat the underlying disharmony. We don't treat the symptom with traditional Chinese medicine. So that's one of the big differences between that approach and like a traditional Western medical approach, because, for example, say asthma, for example, if you're an asthmatic, you go to your GP and you're given probably the same two inhalers that 99% of the other people with asthma have got, a steroid inhaler and a Ventolin inhaler. Whereas if the asthmatic came to a traditional Chinese acupuncturist, the same as with the menopause, they've got so many different underlying conditions, underlying energetic imbalances that we would be addressing, that their treatments would all be different. So it's very personalized medicine. It's very, very effective at helping women through menopausal change. Chinese medicine, probably before any other system of healthcare in the world, was talking uniquely about gynecology. They had gynecology textbooks at about 200 BC, and I don't know of any other system of healthcare that women's health and women's bits and bobs were even a separate issue back then. So it is very beautiful. And because I'm a naturopath as well, while I'm working with those women with the acupuncture, I am teaching them, educating them, empowering them about their diet, and about maybe teaching them how to breathe properly. Teaching them about being more, drawing their boundaries in closer, and being more willing to say no, and doing that life review. So I'm very much about the whole picture. I don't just prescribe or just use an acupuncture needle. I guess I see working with a woman as a journey for both her and I, because I always learn something. I always deepen and grow through my encounter with the women that I work with. It's not one-way traffic.
Really interesting. When you give herbs to women, do you also look at the energetics of that herb from a traditional Chinese medicine kind of perspective too?
I tend not to with the herbal side of things, because I'm not trained as a Chinese herbalist. I'm trained as an acupuncturist, and it's quite different in a lot of ways. So I tend to then flip more to my naturopathic hat when I'm writing the naturopathic program. So I don't use raw herbs. I don't send them home with bags of evil smelling things to boil for 5 hours. I tend to send them home with a bottle of something where they swallow 2 capsules. It's a lot easier. So no, but my prescribing is more from the Western naturopathic perspective.
Awesome. If you could give like the top 3 tips, if someone was actually going through perimenopause and feeling really rough, what would you have, like 3 top tips that you'd recommend that they would do?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Top 3. Okay.
Could be 5. I just didn't want to give you too many.
Yeah.
It could be flexible.
3 might be enough to keep us talking for the next 5 hours. So let's go with 3. So probably the first thing I would say for most women is slow down. Slow down. Because slowing down and creating that pause, creating that space around you, allows you to start hearing the still small voice within, and that's the source of your wisdom. And really, when you connect with that wisdom, and when you create the space to hear that wisdom, you don't need an outside authority telling you how to get well. Your body will actually guide you. Your intuition, your wisdom will guide you. So slow down, create the space. And so people say, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? My life's so busy. How do you do that? You do that by changing your consciousness. Number 1, realizing that there is an issue, that you're out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, and that you crash into bed at 11 p.m. and there hasn't been a minute all day that's about you. Number 1, realizing that is an issue. And then that's where that process of working together and being empowered comes in, because gradually reframing your own self-importance so that you are able to place yourself at the top of the pedestal, at the top of the ladder instead of the bottom. Mm-hmm. And when you really, really take that on board, when you really understand that the wellness and the happiness of all those people you love around you is directly linked to your own happiness and peace, and how full your own cup is, when you really, really get that, you realize it's not a selfish move to suddenly move yourself to the top of the pile and start making those choices around personal care, because everybody benefits from it.
Yeah.
You know, when you're flowing, when your cup is full and you're flowing over, your husband gets more of you, you know, a less irritable wife, you know, maybe a wife with a better libido, a wife that's more fun. Your kids get a mother that's not, you know, a snappy old witch because she's exhausted all the time. So number one, slow down, reframe your consciousness so that you realize how important you are, and what a blessing you are to everybody else if you are well and happy. Number two, if you're not already doing so, start moving. Exercise, just exercise is so important. And I watched your free webinar before we jumped on the live to see, you know, where you came from. We're so aligned, by the way. You're very aligned with the way you think about it all. But, you know, you were talking about exercise and the importance of it. But it's got to be the right exercise, right? Absolutely. So I spend my life working with women doing one of two things: either encouraging them to start moving because they're highly sedentary, or putting the brakes on the movement and getting them to stop getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to CrossFit and getting to the office totally knackered, you know. And instead 30 minutes beautiful walking by the ocean, breathing deeply, you know, doesn't even have to be fast walking to begin with. Let's get those stress hormones down. Let's lower that cortisol. And when that cortisol lowers, your hot flushes will calm. You'll start sleeping better at night. You'll have less of a problem with the belly fat, all of those things. So, slow down, balance the exercise, e.g. start moving if you're not moving, or slow way down with movement if it's over exercising or the wrong exercising. And I guess the third pillar has to be, I mean, there's so many pillars, but number 3 would be doing a diet overhaul. So looking at moving to a more, for a traditional, the typical woman I'm seeing with perimenopause or menopause, mood swings, sleep issues, fatigue, hot flushes, night sweats, no libido, weight gain. So that classic picture, generally I'm moving them more towards a Mediterranean diet. So, you know, because I'm both a naturopath and a TCM practitioner, I tend to be the TCM acupuncture has moderated the kind of radical naturopath in me and has brought me much more to the middle path. So you don't find me putting everybody on ketogenic diets or saying, oh, you know, veganism is the only way to go. I'm not that person. And Chinese medicine has helped me not to be that person. But I do see that most menopausal women thrive on a Mediterranean-based diet. So a lot more plant food, a lot of omega-3 fats and essential fatty acids from, you know, olives, olive oil, nuts and seeds, oily fish, those kind of things. Huge amounts of green vegetables, all vegetables, brassica vegetables to help your body with, you know, hormonal detoxification. So and also getting rid of the big nasties that play havoc, because I always say that menopause is when all your roosters come home to roost. So if you've flogged the living daylights out of yourself for the last 35 years as an adult, you're screwed when you get to menopause. It's tight, you know, like you have no choice but to wake up and do it differently now. So getting rid of the big nasties, the alcohol, the sugar, the caffeine, the processed foods. And even before you prescribe a thing, if you're able to make those changes, you're 90% of the way there. Menopause is a different experience then.
Women hate it when you say take away coffee and alcohol.
Yeah.
But that's usually because that's the thing that helps them get through the stress.
That's it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Doing it.
So
Yeah.
that's why it all has to be done in tandem, and often the mental reprogramming is the first part of it, right? And the instilling the belief that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to have a house that's messy if it means you get to rest for 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon after a whole week at work, or it's okay to get every member of the house involved. Why are you doing it on your own when you've got 2 adult children living with you and a husband? You know, so the reprogramming. And then once all of those stressors come down, you don't need the alcohol and the caffeine to hold you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just gone quiet.
Why? Neither of us really drink alcohol, and apart from the and I have to say, COVID-19 has taught me that actually I really don't need coffee that much at all anymore.
Right, interesting.
I have almond flat white, and I make a really rubbish cup of coffee, and so I decided I have the odd espresso now and again as a treat, and then I went to a cafe for the first time last week and had my almond flat white, and it was very nice, but I thought, it wasn't that, I mean, it was all right, but it wasn't kind of like, oh my God, it was awesome. And I did think, actually, I didn't really miss you that much as I thought I would. So now and again, I like it. I think it's the going to the cafe and the quiet and the nurturing and the being with my husband. That's what I love. Yeah. Not the coffee. So that's
exactly right. It's that bit that's saying, this is about me. I'm in a cafe sitting down, somebody else is serving me. It's about me, and it's that bit that's alluring, isn't it? Yeah. I had an interesting life recheck over COVID, because I hardly drink alcohol, because while I like it, it's not a friend to me. My body does not like alcohol, especially as I've become a menopausal and then postmenopausal woman. So I don't drink alcohol. I might have half a glass of wine every 2 weeks or something. But for some reason, when we went into level 4, just like that, my husband came home from the supermarket with a bottle of red wine, and I decided it was all right to have a glass of wine every night. And so for probably 3 weeks, maybe 5 out of 7 nights, I had a glass of red wine. And I felt like crap. Yeah. I felt so bad. And here I was, a naturopath. I knew why I felt so bad. And yet each evening I'd have my glass of wine. So at the end of 3 weeks, I said, right, that's it. Do not buy any more alcohol from the supermarket. If it's not in the house, I'm not going to drink it. Yeah. And within days, I felt so much better, mentally and physically. So it's, even as a naturopath, it's good to sometimes, we're humans, right? We're triggered like the rest of them. Everybody, we're all in the same boat. We're all human beings finding our way. So it was good for me to experience that and just say, alcohol makes a real difference to being a postmenopausal woman.
What would you say? Why would you what would your recommendation of coffee be?
Oh, okay, coffee. Okay.
I don't take away my coffee. No.
So there's no need to. It's all about balance, right? So there's no need to be an all or nothing. You don't have to be an 8-cup-a-day girl or a I never drink coffee girl. What about having 1 cup of coffee in the morning with your breakfast, if that's the time that gives you the greatest joy and satisfaction, or after the kids have gone to school, you make yourself a beautiful coffee and you have a bit of a ritual around it and you sit for half an hour and it's your downtime. There's a ton of good stuff that can come from having that coffee. I think the issue with coffee is that some people are able to do that and other people habituate to it very quickly and it becomes quite an addictive substance. And then it's a problem. So if you're having, 5, 6, 7 coffees a day, then it's probably causing you some problems. But if you're having 1 or even 2 coffees a day and you love it and it helps you calm, there's a lot of evidence around the good stuff that coffee does for you health-wise.
Yeah, exactly.
You're happy about that, Andrea?
I don't have it every day, but it is. I tend to. Now that we're out of. As soon as those cafes opened again,
Boom, there goes Andrea.
I was like, yeah. And I
And,
really loved it.
yeah, and that's great, right? Because it's time out and it's joy, and that's great for your serotonin, it's great for your dopamine, it's great for your blood pressure, it's great for all sorts of things when you create that space where you're happy and joyful and gifting yourself something.
Yeah.
And like whenever I look at diet or coffee or alcohol or anything, I look at the individual. So if I'm working with somebody who is, you know, not sleeping and a bag of anxiety and having panic attacks, well, that person, you know, let's see how you feel. Let's do a month without coffee and see how you feel, and see if even one coffee is making a negative difference for you per day.
Yeah.
But then if you've got somebody that doesn't fit that picture, you know, that maybe is fatigued, you know, a bit of a sedentary kind of a chillaxed, laid back person, the impact of a coffee a day is going to be quite different on that person. Maybe it's going to give them a bit of a spark to start the day and give them that get up and go out and walk first thing in the morning. Yeah. So it's always about, let's look at the individual and see what the circumstances are there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love it.
When back to your acupuncture, I know we've talked about like more about the space that you create and the relationship and that you build with your clients, when your ladies, when they come to see you. But with the acupuncture as well, like it all going hand in hand, once, say if they're coming in for acupuncture for hot flushes, for example, once the hot flushes go, and then can they then only see you for a certain period of time, the hot flushes go and then they don't return? Or is it a matter of them controlling the naturopath plan that you give on them?
Sure, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So the answer to that is, again, it depends on the woman. Yeah. So if I work with somebody, so for example, with hot flushes, I would be seeing that woman weekly for anywhere from, say, 8 to 12 sessions. Depending on the woman. It doesn't mean it's taking 8 to 12 sessions before they experience a benefit, but to do the job properly, it might take 8 sessions before they're saying, well, I've just been a whole week and I haven't had a single hot flush. From versus 8 weeks ago, I was having 5 a day. So we do the intensive work up front, so the weekly at the front, and then once they're feeling so much better, we'll drop that down. So then I might see them twice a month for the next 2 months, and then I might just see them once a month for a few months. And then what I encourage women to do, the way acupuncture is really intended to be used, is for preventative health. So I have many clients who for 25 years have come to see me once every 6 weeks, a bit like an oil change, you know, or a warrant of fitness, just to rebalance the energy, and off they go again. And that's about staying well rather than parking the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. So to get back to your question about the hot flushes, once we've done all of that, they would be encouraged to go on a program where they're coming to see me once every 6 weeks for acupuncture. And all the time that we're going through that whole process, the idea is that they're changing their lifestyle, their nutrition, their mental space, their exercise. They're changing all of the drivers for the hormonal imbalance. So the acupuncture, yes, is helping to rebalance them energetically in terms of acupuncture meridians. It's creating a lot more relaxation and peace in their body. It's lowering cortisol. It's boosting neurotransmitters. But it's not, I never just rely on the acupuncture. The woman is an active part of that process as well. So I'm educating and empowering, but she's the one that has to go out into the world and make the daily choices. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. It's pretty much the same as like our program and as well, isn't it? Like they can get results by doing the program if they do the work. But it's a lot with these, you know, like 8-week challenges and stuff like that. Like they can do really well while they're doing the program, and then once they come off the program or finish the challenge or what have you, then they can just tend to
go back to
often slip back to old habits and go back.
Totally, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that comes with wisdom as a practitioner, and you guys have probably found this too. You know, when you first are out of the starting blocks and you're all idealistic, and you've got the education, you've got the academic learning, but you haven't got the real life people experience. You tend to be quite dogmatic and restrictive. And well, I was, as a young naturopath, I was a lot more hardcore about things.
Yeah.
But now the beauty of wisdom and experience is that I understand that the way to empower genuine lasting change is not a radical hardcore 8-week program, that locks you down for 8 weeks, because at the end of that you're just going to revert back to your status quo, and you're in a worse place because you're going to feel shit about the fact that you've failed again, that you've fallen off the wagon. So I guess one of the central cores of my approach is that's very gentle. And it's like, I love that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's how I work. So when I write the naturopathic program, there's a lot of information in there, and there's a lot of links for women to read, because I'm not just about telling women what to do. I want them to understand, to actually learn and understand and take responsibility for what's going on. But then when we apply it gently and gradually. So it might be like, okay, well, breakfast isn't working. Let's have a look at breakfast. Let's focus on breakfast for the next couple of weeks. So let's try some things and get that. And then they say it takes about 28 days of repetitive, repetition of something for it to become a new normal. And then we might move on to, okay, breakfast is done and dusted. Well, let's have a look at what's happening at lunchtime. And so I'm very much almost like paint by numbers is not the right way of expressing it, but a little bit like that, like, let's paint this bit. Oh, that's beautiful. Let's paint this bit over here. And then before you know it, you've got a masterpiece that's ready to frame and hang on the wall. And it was painless, and it's permanent change.
That's beautiful. I've noticed that myself, actually, because I've got my own personal training studio, and I used to do lots of 8-week challenges and that kind of stuff, even though I never put them on some silly restrictive diet. But it was still, I've definitely learnt a lot from doing our online program, and probably just wisdom that now my whole approach has just changed. It's changed, and I just do not want to do anything like that anymore. And it's just but like you say, being much more gentle with people.
Oh, absolutely, because that's the root of all evil for most women, isn't it? It's that we're just not gentle with ourselves. We're our own worst critic. Most women generally have, a kind, loving heart towards others. They'll nurture their children. They'll be kind to their girlfriends. They'll, help the little old lady across the road. But their inner narrative can be evil towards themselves, So do we really want to instigate anything else that's just another opportunity to flog yourself? That's why I'm not a great fan. I'm not a great fan of the exercise fads that come along, that are punitive and well, I probably don't need to mention them. You know what I'm talking about. The things, the programs run through gyms that are just pump, pump, pump. And so many women, when they get to menopause, they've got adrenal exhaustion already. Their cortisol and adrenaline is all out of whack. Their body composition is out of whack. They're struggling with mood issues, and those kind of exercise programs, they just make it all worse. Because your body thinks, oh my gosh, this is a fight or flight situation. I'm under attack. Quick, escape or stay and freeze,
And a lot of them from some of those programs are losing their periods as well.
Totally. I see that. I definitely see that. With going back to the fertility thing, I've worked with quite a few women over the years who are underweight. They may be menstruating, but their percentage body fat is basically too low to conceive, and they're over exercising. So with those women, that's quite a challenge, because it's quite frightening for those women to swap to yoga and walking, and to gain 3 kilos. It's quite a frightening thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. Definitely.
Mm.
Wow. I have loved talking to you.
This is really, it's been,
I could talk all
really
day.
interesting. Lots of wisdom, Lynda, lots of wisdom.
Oh, it's been awesome talking to you too. We could sit here and do this all day, but I know one of you's got a free day with kids at school.
Well, I wouldn't say free from kids, but not free.
We'll take that as a win though, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Oh, you enjoy that day, and they grow up so quickly. Before you know it, they'll be gone, and you'll long for those days where they're running around your feet.
I know. Not there yet though.
How old are your kids?
One's 16 and one's 13.
Oh, okay. So you're in the midst of adolescence. Yes, it's got its moments, hasn't it?
Yeah, my poor husband, perimenopause and puberty all happening in the same house.
Oh, and that's what happens now, right? Doesn't it? You know, that confluence of those two major hormonal passages at the same time, with women having babies a bit older. It's puberty and perimenopause during battle. Not a pretty sight, right?
No, it's not. It's not when we're both in foul mood.
So, oh well. You've got all the skills and the wisdom. I'm sure you'll find your way through.
We do. We muddle through.
Go for lots of walks. Yeah.
I go for a lot of walks. I've done a lot of walking in the last 2 months, that's for sure. Cool. And how do people find you, Lynda, if they were really interested in having a consult with you or having acupuncture with you? How can they find you?
Okay. Well, probably my website, which is Lynda, which is Lynda. So Lynda Wharton, WHARTON.com, LyndaWharton.com.
Cool. I'll put that, make sure that goes up. And you have a Facebook page as well that they can go to.
I do, yep. Holistic Women's Health, Lynda Wharton. So if they just put Lynda Wharton into Facebook, I've got a really busy Facebook group. I post daily, lots of interaction. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, make sure that we put that up for everyone.
Thank you so much for this invitation. It's been an absolute delight to talk to you both. And thanks for all the awesome work you're doing with menopausal women as well.
We love it. And we really appreciate you giving up your time to come and speak to us. It's been brilliant.
My pleasure.
Have
a wonderful day, ladies.
And you too. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
See you.